They told me small towns were safe, and I bought the lie wholesale, the kind of stupid, wholehearted belief that only comes after you've seen the worst of what people can do in cities where screams are swallowed by the sound of traffic and blood dries in alleys no one ever cleans. I thought I'd find peace here, in the whisper-quiet streets and pastel-painted homes, where nothing bad ever made the news and every face had a name. But what they don't tell you is that evil doesn't disappear out here. It just learns to dress better. This place, East Karen, hides its sins deep in the dirt, packs them down with shovels and silent prayers, and tells itself it's clean because no one looks too hard. But I did. I had to. Because I helped bury something. And it didn't stay buried. So I'm writing it all down. Every last detail. Because the thing clawing under my floorboards every night, the thing whispering my name in the voice of someone we killed, it won't stop until the truth's out. And maybe, just maybe, I'll finally sleep once it's over. I never meant to stay long in East Karen. It was supposed to be a stop, just a way station between the kind of mistakes that end in restraining orders and the kind that end in shallow graves. I arrived broke, starving, and a week off sleeping under highway bridges. So when Mr. Lawton said he needed someone to do night shifts at the old crematorium, I didn't blink. "You just keep it warm," he said, eyes squinting behind bifocals, voice papery and bored. "Furnace needs to cycle at night or the vents clog with soot. Real simple. Don't touch the hatch. That's for bio-waste, not your concern." He said it so offhand, like saying don't lick the walls, and I almost laughed. Almost. The crematorium hadn't hosted a funeral in years. The wallpaper peeled in long curls like dead skin and the hallways smelled like formaldehyde and ammonia. Every door creaked like it had arthritis. But it was the furnace room that really stuck with me. It wasn't the heat, though it pressed in thick as blood. It was the air. It moved wrong. The way it hummed low when you weren't talking, like something behind the walls was breathing with you, sinking up on purpose. And in the floor was the hatch. Rusted. Bolted. Hinges blackened with old heat. At first, I figured it was where they dumped the ashes from the cremations, but that didn't explain the claw marks gouged into the iron from the inside. Deep ones. Too deep for nails. As if something had once tried, desperately, to get out. I ignored it. For a while. Just did my job, checked the gauges, cycled the flames, logged the hours. But on the sixth night, the furnace made a sound I hadn't heard before. A sort of wet groan, like an animal being choked. Then the lights popped, one by one. Plink, 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 dark. I froze. My ears rang. The room went blacker than black, and I swear on my mother's ashes, I heard a voice from beneath the hatch. "Help, it's so hot," it was her voice. Except she'd been dead for 5 years. I didn't sleep the next day. Couldn't. I locked every door in my rented room, turned every light on, and sat with a hammer in my lap like some ancient caveman waiting for the dark to move. And when it didn't, I convinced myself I'd hallucinated it. Maybe I was cracking from stress. Maybe this town, with its eerie quiet and fake smiles, was getting to me. But then I looked at my arm. 3 scratches, fresh and angry, running down my bicep. Shallow, but real. Bleeding just a little. I hadn't scratched myself. I know I hadn't. I would have remembered. And then I found the first note. Slipped under my door like an invoice. No envelope. Just torn paper, shaky handwriting. "It burns. I'm still here. You left me." There was no signature. But I knew the handwriting. I'd seen it 1,000 times in letters she'd written me from rehab, from halfway houses, from that last group home before she vanished. Elise. The cops had said overdose. That she'd likely been buried in a city plot with no ID. I hadn't attended. I couldn't. I'd stolen her money. sold her pills. I'd killed her, slowly. And now she was back. The next night, I went to the furnace room with a crowbar. Not for protection, for leverage. I was going to open the hatch. I needed to see. The metal screamed when I pried it up. Heat rolled out like breath. Inside, a chute. Deep. Black. Reeking of rot and old smoke. And down there, movement. A shape. Not human. Not fully. But with her eyes. Eyes I remembered because I'd once watched them roll back into her head during a seizure. They looked up at me, full of betrayal and hunger. Then the hatch slammed shut on its own. And locked. Mr. Lawton invited me out that weekend. Said the town had a monthly poker night for insiders. No tourists. No kids. Just those who understood how things worked. He smiled too wide when he said it, like he was proud of something awful. I said yes because I was afraid to be alone. The meeting was held beneath the hardware store, in a sub-basement not listed on any blueprint. We entered through a trapdoor behind a shelf of mulch. I counted 8 men and 2 women, all locals, all smiling too wide, like puppets trying to mimic human expressions. Lawton poured drinks. To the fire, he said. To the fire, they echoed. I asked what they meant. One woman, pale and thin with yellow teeth, leaned close. This town runs on death, Han, she said. Always has. The furnace eats what we give it. And in return, we live good lives. Healthy crops. Low crime. Long lives. But when someone breaks the rules, something gets out. And then things go wrong. My skin went cold. They knew. They saw me open it. They knew Elise was back. You need to feed it, Lawton said, not unkindly. You cracked the seal. Now it's hungry. I tried to leave. I packed my bag, stole a car, and drove. Didn't get far. Just past the county line, there she was, a girl standing in the middle of the road, barefoot, hair covering her face, wearing the same t-shirt Elise had worn the day she OD'd. I swerved. Crashed into a ditch. When I crawled out, the girl was gone. But in the seat beside me, written in blood, was one word, stay. I stumbled back to town. Walked 5 miles in the dark. Every step felt like walking into my own grave. When I returned to the crematorium, the furnace was already on. And something was screaming inside it. They say guilt rots you from the inside. But in East Karen, guilt comes back with teeth. It doesn't just haunt. It eats. Lawton gave me a name. A man from out of town. Hitchhiker. No family. No ID. You feed the furnace, he said. And it'll let her rest. I resisted. For 3 days, I fought the thought. Then the voices started. At night. In the walls. Under the floor. They spoke in Elisa's voice. They cried. They begged. They screamed. And they said one thing over and over again, you have to feed me. You brought me back. Now finish it. So I did it. I lured the man with a job offer. Told him I needed help fixing the basement pipes. When he climbed into the furnace room, I hit him with a wrench. Again. And again. I heard his skull crack. And then I opened the hatch. The thing inside took him. Didn't even scream. Just dragged him under. The lid sealed shut on its own. The air felt cleaner. Lighter. For a while. It didn't work. Elise still comes. In dreams. In mirrors. In the scratch of fingernails on my walls when I lie awake too long. She's not just hungry, she's angry. Because I didn't feed her a stranger. I fed her a nobody. She wants someone I love. But there's no one left. Except me. So tonight, I'll open the hatch. And climb in. I've left this story behind in the hope someone finds it. Not to save me. But to warn you. Don't open the furnace. And for God's sake, don't make it hungry. When I was young, they told us not to swim in Cradle Lake after dark. Not because it was deep, not because it was cold, not even because of the drownings, which happen more often than you'd expect for a town this small, but because sometimes, on nights when the mist crawled low over the water and the trees looked like broken fingers, you could hear her calling from the far side, asking for help, for warmth, for the name of the boy who never came back to save her. They called it a ghost story. Campfire talk. But I know the truth. Because I was that boy. And she didn't drown. She was murdered. And I helped bury her in that lake, thinking the cold would keep her still. But some things don't stay buried. And Cradle Lake. It always gives back what you put in. It had been 10 years since we dropped her in. 10 years since the moon bled silver across the lake's glassy skin and I held down her arms while Darren wrapped the chain around her ankles, whispering apologies she couldn't hear over the way her skull had cracked when she hit the rock. We told ourselves it wasn't murder. We told ourselves it was panic. An accident. A bad trip gone worse. We didn't even speak her name afterward. That was the rule. We burned her clothes, her phone, her sketchbook, everything. We erased her like cowards. But last Monday, I heard her name again. At the diner, just past midnight, drunk off whiskey and running on no sleep, the waitress brought my check and said, "You ever know a girl named Riley Cardo? I think she used to live here." Pretty thing. Drew Wolves. I swear my stomach collapsed. Riley. Riley fucking Cardo. She was back. Or someone who looked like her. I asked where the girl was. Waitress said she'd been outside, just staring at the lake, barefoot, shivering in a soaked hoodie. Didn't say much. Just kept whispering, "Why'd you let me go under?" I went to Darren's house that night. He was worse than me, drunk, paranoid, face pocked and thin, like his sins had been chewing him alive from the inside out. When I said her name, he flinched like I'd punched him. "I buried her," he said, "myself. I swam out and dropped the body in the trench by Devil's Rock. Ain't no way she floated." "She didn't float," I said. "But she's back." He thought I was cracking until I showed him what I found on my porch that morning, wrapped in a piece of plastic like a dead animal. Her sketchbook. The same one we burned. The same deer-spotted cover with the tear on the corner. Still smelled like charcoal and lake water. Inside were new pages. Drawings of me. Sleeping. Bleeding. Sinking. Darren killed himself 2 nights later. Slit his wrists in the tub, wrote a message on the mirror with his blood. "She's under the house." They found water in his lungs. Not blood. Not foam. Lake water. They cremated him without ceremony, and for the first time since we were kids, I was alone in the crime. No one else had known. No one else was left. But Riley wasn't done. That night, I woke to the smell of algae and rust. My floors were wet. My walls were slick. Every tap in the house was turned on, and from the kitchen sink, a hand reached out, gray, bloated, nails gone, skin peeling in strings, and I swear it was hers. I fled. Took my father's rifle. Slept in my truck with the windows up, engine running. But when I woke up, the inside of my windshield was smeared with a message, written in condensation, "I saw what you did." There was a man once, back in '91, who said he pulled a body from Cradle Lake, only for it to vanish in his boat before he reached shore. They locked him up in an institution. Said he had lake lung. Delirium. Hallucinations from toxic algae exposure. But he wasn't crazy. He was the only one who told the truth. I found his journals in the old library archives, pages warped with time, notes scrawled in frantic pen. They live beneath the mud. They wear our skin. She's become one of them. I rented a dredge boat from Holloway Marina. Went to Devil's Rock. Dropped the claw and let it scrape the bottom. It brought up bones. Dozens of them. Not just hers. Children. Adults. All clean. All picked. And at the bottom of the net was her face, still intact, but not like a mask. Not like skin. Like something wore her from the inside. Like she was hollow. I called the cops. Told them everything. Murder. Cover up. The body. The lake. They laughed. Thought I was another meth head spun out on ghost stories. But when I took them to Devil's Rock, the water turned red. Not in a metaphorical way. It literally bubbled up, thick as syrup, stinking of iron and rot. And something rose with it. Something that wore Riley's smile like a weapon. It pulled Officer Janice under in seconds. Dragged her by the throat, screaming. We heard her scream all the way down. I ran. Didn't even turn around. Didn't breathe until I was 6 miles from the lake. That night, I got a voicemail from her number. Riley's voice. You can't run from a place where you drowned someone. You just sink slower. But you're still going down. I'm not writing this to be forgiven. I don't believe in that. I'm writing it because Cradle Lake is eating the town, and no one will say it out loud. Not the sheriff. Not the mayor. Not the men who pretend the drownings are unfortunate accidents. They're sacrifices. The lake doesn't just want blood. It wants guilt. And I'm the biggest offering of all. Tonight, I'm going to swim back out to Devil's Rock. I'm going to let her take me. Because if I don't, she'll take my sister next. She left her sketchbook on Emily's bed. Drew her tied to the same rock. Drew her drowning in slow motion. So I'll go. Let the lake eat me. Let the dead wear me like they wore her. If you're reading this, stay far from Cradle Lake. Because the thing that took Riley. She's not a ghost. She's something worse. She's hungry. And now she knows your name, too.